All right, here we are. It is time to introduce the speaker for our mega session. Again, it took 10 years of asking and what maybe 30 seconds for me to mess up your last name. Isn't that pretty awesome, right, Jason? So I would like to introduce Jason Averbook. He's author and co-founder and CEO of LeapGen. So here is my introduction. It starts with this. Go, go, go. Don't talk, act, unquote. This is what it's like to be in Jason Averbook's atmosphere on one of his best days. I learned this when talking to Jess Von Bank, who is the head of marketing at LeapGen. Jess also told me about the trickle-down effect Jason has on her 3 young daughters. The notion that love can exist at work, and that as girls, to know that the world will, quote, see me, see all of me, unquote. On the flip side, Jess shared that Jason is a bit hard on himself because he feels that he doesn't get to make mistakes. But when he does, Jason owns it. That's being in his atmosphere on a bad day. And to that, something that Jess hasn't shared with Jason, but I'm going to now, is this, quote, it's okay, unquote. Now I'd like to introduce one of the founders of LeapGen, whose mission is to shape the future of work based on love, energy, audacity, and proof. The professional who has written multiple books, who talks the talk and walks the walk, albeit with no shoes on around the office, Jason Averbook.
Makari, great job. Thanks for sharing all those secrets with the audience, and fun way to start. Thank you for the kind introduction, sir. So good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Thank you all for being here. First of all, I just have to say, if it's taken 10 years, I apologize. It should not take 10 years for anything related to me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I really appreciate the invitation, and hope we get to do this a lot more often into the future. So first of all, for all of you here, we're going to use the chat a lot. So please say hi. In the feed, say hi. Just say hi. Easy. Hi. I'm seeing some highs come in. Hi, Beth. How are you? Hi, Allie. How are you? Tyler, my friend. How are you? Not going to get to say hi to everyone. Dawn, awesome. Good to see you. So good to see all the hellos out there. The next thing I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you how you are. I'm going to ask you how you are. And your answer is one of 3 things. One of 3 things. You're green, you're yellow, or you're red. Green, feeling great, ready to go. Yellow, so-so. Red, not the best day. Green, yellow, red. James is green. Dawn is green. Some of you are not going to answer because I'm calling out your name, but it's important. Beth, thank you so much for being honest. Beth is yellow. And for all of you on here who aren't talking, come on. Mike, yellow. We'll wait for some more to come in. But you guys, really, really quickly, what I just did is I asked you a question about how you are. And there's nothing that's more important. James, thank you. Andrea, thank you. Lauren, thank you. Melissa, thank you. There's nothing more important than a quick question like, how are you? There's nothing more important when it comes to engagement, when it comes to action, and when it comes to listening than a simple question, how are you? And I'd ask you guys to think about this as we go through the session today. And as we talk about this world we live in right now. So, as introduced, my name is Jason Averbook, and CEO of an organization called LeapGen. At LeapGen, what we do is help organizations of all shapes and size transform. Now, some people say, oh my God, not another dude speaker about transformation. Transformation is really, really important to all of us in our world. We all transform on a daily basis. We all transform on a daily basis. Some of us transform in different ways than others. Some of us, you can see it in different ways than others, but we all transform. And as a function called human resources, that used to be called personnel, that used to be called something else, that used to be called something else, in a function that counts heads, instead of making those heads count, in a function that counts heads, instead of making heads count, we have to think about how do we ongoing transform. How many of you feel that you're great at transformation? Just say yes in the chat. I'm great at transformation. Jen, awesome. Lynn, awesome. Edmundo, awesome. How many of you hate change? Sarah, it's okay. Now, I asked you that question very quickly, so I didn't even know if Sarah was talking about change or transformation, but those two things go hand in hand. And every single day, people ask me, including my kids, like, what do you do? Like, help people change. Help organizations change. Help organizations transform. If you look at trans, the word trans, it means radical change. Okay, and we can use trans in two different terms, transition or transformation. Transition is just a shift, like a technology transition from one technology to another. Transformation is truly changing how we do things. And all of us here today are in the discussion of changing how we do things in what I like to call, and we like to call, the now of work. Okay, now why do we think about this concept of the now of work? Okay, when we think about now of work and what we do every single day of our lives, we do these three things. We come up with strategies, we deploy those strategies, and we sustain those strategies to get value. We deploy those strategies, we get value. What we don't do is we don't start with technology. What we don't do is we don't start with value. We start with a strategy. And every single organization in the world today should be creating a strategy as to what their now of work is. Now, there's a reason that I'm saying now of work instead of future of work. And the reason I'm saying that is because this moment, right now, is the inflection point that most of us have been waiting for our entire careers. Right now is the inflection point where we can actually change something because why? Everything around us changed. And that is not just blowing smoke, you guys. That is not blowing smoke. That is truly where we're at today. So what we're going to talk about today is what are the biggest challenges when it comes to the theme here that we're talking about, engagement and experience. How do we think about engagement differently in different models? And finally, what's the role that then technology or digitization changes? Courtney, change with the change. Change with the change. Courtney, I love the fact that you added that. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you for continuing to comment. Any organization in the world today should be thinking about this equation right here. And if I could, and please don't hold it against me, I would tattoo this on every one of your bodies. In henna, not in ink. There's some people laughing at me. See? Laughing at me. But when we think about that, why would we do that? Why would I possibly want to do that? I want to do that because we cannot forget that our job as an HR leader and HR professional is to align to the purpose of our organization. And Nikki, the purpose of your organization is different than the purpose of Courtney's organization, which is different than the purpose of Angie's, which is different than the purpose of Kirsty's. So we need to personalize our vision towards the purpose of our organization. Okay? And when we think about the concept of digital, everywhere I go in the world, everyone I speak to in the world starts thinking about, when they hear digital, they jump right to technology. It's the biggest possible mistake anyone can make in our industry. Digital is a mindset. Digital is a strategy. Technology enables digitization. I'm going to say it again. Technology enables digitization. Laura beautifully said, digital is pervasive. Every business, or Laura, every function is digital now. Okay, but what's so important for us to realize is that what digital is made up of these four things. Starting with making sure you have a clear mindset and vision as to what you're trying to achieve. What do you want to be great at versus what is it okay to be okay at? And how are you going to measure your success? What do you want to be great at versus what is it okay to be okay at? And how are you going to measure your success? The second component of this digital equation is to make sure that you design your strategy for the people that you want to consume it. If you want your employees engaged in whatever strategy you deploy, guess what? You need to design for them. If you want your managers and leaders engaged in a strategy, guess what? You need to design for who? Them. But what do we oftentimes do in HR? We design for who? Us. And then we push our us out on them. And what do? Oh my God. It's another HR thing. Oh, another email from HR. Another process that HR wants us to do. Oh, we got to check on engagement again. Salima beautifully said they push back. Stephanie beautifully said no one reads HR emails. It's sad, but when employees or managers get a call from HR, they're not like kick ass. A call from HR, they're like, oh no. A call from HR. We're going to change that as an industry. But it's so important to keep that in mind. Third, I need to think about and realize that employees engage in journeys, not business processes. Processes generate data. Journeys generate feeling. Modules generate data. Modules are things that are packaged for people to consume and turn into journeys. But processes generate data and journeys generate feeling. And what I want to do is I want to make sure I understand how to create journeys that drive engagement, not enragement. Engagement, not enragement. And then the last thing is, once I understand that, then I say, what technology makes sense? How do I optimize technology? But where do most people start? They start with the tech. And I didn't share a ton of my background. Some of you know it. I was on the product side. And I got our company that I was leading at the time to the top of the Gartner Magic Quadrant, the upper right. We got it laminated. We put it everywhere. And guess what? We were all proud and drank beer and did shots and celebrated like heck. But then every day, I would go down to the first floor to our corporate visit center, and people would tell us that our product sucked. And then I'd go to the fourth floor, and I'd be like, hey, there's the quadrant. And then I'd come to the first floor, and people would say, your product sucks. Why is that? Because people start with the technology without that other component. Most people's measure of success when it comes to digital is a dumb quote called "go live." If I could shoot it, I would. Go live should be renamed Go Begin, or we have customers that rename it Launch. Because once I'm live, that's when I actually start to use this stuff and get value. And Yvonne, I love your comment about user experience is important, but Yvonne, just pushing back for a quick second, I as an employee don't want to be called a user. I'm not a user. Thank you, Yvonne. A candidate or a human. I'm a human. So when we think about that, this digital equation is key to everything that we do. Okay, and you guys will get copies of these slides so that you can have them. But all of that being said, remember what we said? Change with the change. Work has changed forever. Work has changed forever. Workers have changed forever. Business has changed forever. We live in this moment where all of a sudden we find that two pandemics in 2020, an old pandemic called social justice and inclusion, and a new pandemic called COVID-19, all of a sudden accelerated digital like we've never seen it before. Now, what does that mean? That means, you guys, that right now, all of us on this call, are actors in a movie. We are all actors in a movie that are basically creating our future. In 2025, someone's going to watch this movie. They're going to watch all of us and say, what did those guys do when they had the opportunity to change something? They said, let's just go back to the way it was before that COVID thing. Like, let's not do that. Let's use this as our opportunity to truly drive things forward. And when we think about what that means, we have to focus on transformation. In the HR world, the last time that people truly all got aligned around something was this thing called Y2K. And some of you remember Y2K. Some of you are too young to remember Y2K. But everyone gathered around Y2K. It was a huge rallying cry. I'm sure some of you remember where you were December 31st, 1999. I was in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States, watching a mainframe, waiting for it to blow up, trying to figure out what I would do if it did blow up, and I drank champagne while I did it. And right after Y2K, when nothing happened, now, did nothing happen because we actually planned, or did nothing happen because we used it as a boon to sell technology? Different question. But all of a sudden, what did we start talking about? We started talking about something called Workforce 2020. Do you remember that? Workforce 2020. And what was Workforce 2020 going to be? It was going to be remote. It was going to be teams-based. It was going to be more digital. People were going to be focusing on employee experience. People were going to be not doing everything on paper. But the fax was going to be gone. The fax machines were going to be gone. There might be mobile devices and things on people's wrists that you walked around with. I'm serious, you guys. At December 31st, 1999, that's the kind of weird talk that everyone was saying was going to happen in 2020. So the question we have to ask is, what did we do between 2000 and 2020 to prepare for it? Some organizations did a lot. Most organizations did very little. So if you ask the question, this question, which by the way I asked last year, and by the way I asked in 2019, and I'm still asking in 2021, I'll say right now, it's 2021 outside of work. What year does it feel like inside of work? It's 2021 outside of work, and we get stuff done outside of work. We go to the bank, we buy things. What year does it feel like inside of work? Outside of work, I ask my device a question, and what do? I get an answer. Inside of work, I go to a search bar. A search bar? As my 13-year-old says to me all the time, I don't want to search, I just want the answer. So when we think about that, the way that employees are going to be engaged, yes, and Lisa, you just want a cocktail bar. Of course, you're from Steam Whistle Brewing, so it makes sense. But all of that being said, when we think about engagement, we really have to think through this concept of what's going to engage people is when we transform the function to be designed for them. So how do we do that? And how do we prioritize when all of a sudden, and I say all of a sudden on purpose with intention, hybrid work models are here to stay. Right skilling is more important than ever. Leveraging data to unleash human capabilities and skills. And what makes someone green or yellow or red on any given day is important. And diversity and inclusion is needed to drive innovation and humanity. All that being said, if you read these 4 bullets, was that stuff true before 2020? It was. What 2020 did is gave us a kick in the butt and said, guys, we have to focus on the now. Stop calling it the future. That's why I call it now of work. Because if we call it the future of work, guess what? Oh, it's down the road. We don't have to worry about it. It's down the road. We don't have to worry about it. Everyone with this future of work stuff drives me crazy because guess what? If it's in the future, we can just wait. This stuff is now. And if we don't act on it now, we're wasting that opportunity. So digital transformation, when we think of it, has one customer. And it's our people. There's one customer, it's our people. Okay, and we know right now that the new work model is hybrid. Like, don't be all like, well, gotta wait and see what happens. Don't do that. Don't be that. Okay, if you wait for everyone to agree on what the new work model is going to be, it's going to be too late for you to do anything. Just like everyone's still waiting for everyone to get a cell phone in order to deploy technology to people. 1 in 5 organizations are already hybrid. 93% will be by the end of the year. And there's so much data. You can take this study from McKinsey just from last week that shows why. Am I going to continue to pay for real estate and have people be less productive? Or am I going to not pay for real estate and have people be more productive? Now, I'm not saying, and no one tweet this, that there is no value in person-to-person contact. I'm not saying that a virtual workforce is what's needed. We're talking hybrid, which means all of us on this call are rethinking work. We're rethinking work based on what works today. And because of that, employee experience, which is just a different way of saying employee engagement, by the way, matters more than ever. Employee experience matters more than ever. Think about that and just some data. 41% of the global workforce considering leaving, 46% are planning a major pivot. Why? Because we also got, just like business got a kick in the butt, people got a kick in the butt. Well, maybe I shouldn't travel 97% of my time. Maybe there's other ways of doing this than driving an hour and a half to work. Maybe there's ways of working from home and still being able to raise my kids and not have my spouse or partner do it. Well, maybe I'm really sick of my company being so far behind the times. So getting employee experience and getting employee engagement right matters. And when we think about this hybrid work model, we have to think about connection, we have to think about trust, and we have to think about safety. And when we do that, we have to reframe this concept of burnout versus resilience. Why did I ask you if you were green, yellow, or red? Because I, in real time, am asking you how you're doing. Any of you that have kids, you don't ask your kids once a year how they are. Any of you that has a spouse or partner or friend, you don't ask them once a year how they're doing. Why do we still do engagement surveys once a year? Duh. Measuring performance. Do I measure performance of my kids' baseball team? Thank you, Edmundo. Do I measure performance of my kids' baseball team once a year? I coached a game last night that ended in an 8-8 tie, baseball here in the US, competitive 13-year-old baseball. I measured the performance of a kid every freaking swing, every step they took. But I'm going to do a formal performance appraisal once a year, and then I'll leave it up to the manager or leader to have other conversations, but I'm going to make them do it. Otherwise, I'm not going to give a comp increase. Sounds like a great way to drive engagement, doesn't it? No, it's all old. You guys, it's all old, hierarchical, monolithical stuff. No managers want to do that stuff. So going forward, we really have to think about, stop this concept of counting people and start thinking about how do we make people count? By truly thinking about, oh, hey, Francisco, truly thinking about human capabilities. To do that, I have to get rid of this once a year cyclical stuff. Now, there are things that once a year is fine for you guys. But if I want real data to act, real data to personalize, real data for artificial intelligence to give me information on, real data to be able to deliver a B to me experience instead of a dumb B to B experience. Yes, I said B to me, not B to B. I need real-time data. I have to be able to listen and act. If I ask you once a year if you're green, yellow, and red, and then I hang up from this air meet thing and I don't act upon it, shame on me, A. B, shame on the employee for trusting me enough to even tell me. And then C, shame on the employee for ever answering another one of my surveys again. Mark, you said it beautifully. These need to be ongoing conversations. So we live in the world right now where we must reset engagement, reset performance, reset rewards with this B to me mentality, which means maybe, just maybe, a peanut butter spread model doesn't work for every persona. Maybe the way I recruit people isn't the same for one persona versus the other. Maybe the way I measure engagement isn't the same for one persona versus the other. Maybe the way that I actually do performance isn't the same for one group versus the other. Maybe the way I do learning isn't the same for one group versus the other. Oh, maybe the way I do something in my company is different than the way another company is going to do it. Imagine. We get so caught up in benchmarks and so caught up in looking at things on a whole basis versus what can I do to drive performance and outcomes of a specific persona right now. That's my job in HR. And my job in HR right now is not to focus on just getting people connected. Stop talking about the cloud. Stop talking about mobile. Now, am I saying that's not important? No, it's very important. But stop talking about it, because guess what? That's the job. It's like done. Stop focusing on getting people connected and teach people and enable people to build connection. Connected is table stakes. Connection will allow you to win. And everything today related to employee experience, everything today related to employee engagement is about connection. So when we think about that, managers and leaders in today's now of work need to stay and become, or I'm going to turn it around, become and stay human. Now, why do I say this? Why do I say this? Because what we do is we have managers and leaders outside of work. And guess who they are outside of work? They're humans. They're parents, they're spouses, they're partners, they have parents, whatever. They have parents. And then what do I do when I bring them into the office? I give them inhuman things to do. Things that don't match 2021. Make sure you check in to see if that person's showing up at their desk today. Make sure you're monitoring that they're not using Amazon.com while they're at work. We have to switch. We have to switch from monitoring people to enabling people. We have to switch from checking up on people to checking in on people. That's what humans do. But somehow we in human resources have these old processes that we make people do that make them what? Inhuman. We have to stop that, you guys. We have to stop it. We have to enable productivity versus monitor activity. We have to check in versus check up. We have to realize that HR and everything related to this new digital workplace is now HR's responsibility. Who owns digital? Not IT alone. The business owns digital transformation. The function owns digital transformation. And you partner with IT to make your vision a reality. The number of CHROs I talk to around the world on a daily basis, who the minute I say the word digital to, they say, well, we got to get HRIS, and they report to IT. I'm like, what? I didn't say one word about technology. I'm talking about how you're organized. I'm talking about your vision for experience. I'm talking about all of that stuff. I'm not talking about technology. Are you going to be an HR department that actually wants to deliver services on a reactive basis or a proactive basis? You know, CHROs tell me all the time, we want to be high touch. And the first thing I say is, I'm like, you guys, there's two types of touching. There's high touch human and there's high touch digital. Have you cataloged which of your capabilities you want to deliver in a digital manner, which is enabling with technology, or which ones do we actually want to be delivered with humans? That's intentional design based on personas. So very, very key. And like I said, it all ties to purpose. What's the value of a purpose? The value of a purpose is basically saying, what are the values of the company? I run a company who has 4 values: love, energy, audacity, and proof. Love what you do, which generates energy to do the audacious and to prove value. Welcome, Christine. You're late, but welcome. Love, energy, audacity, and proof. Okay, it's pretty simple. How do you show love to customers and your fellow employees? To generate energy, to do the audacious, and to prove value. Okay, from a purpose standpoint, then what we need to do is we need to say, how do I take humans plus technology and think about digital? That requires us to have a digital vision. And like I said, you'll get copies of these slides, or I'm going to go ahead and in the chat, put in my LinkedIn real quick. And if you want the slides sooner than that, you can send me a LinkedIn and I'll happy to send them that way too. But how do you actually create a digital vision? And what does a digital vision look like? This should be, and I forgot the name of the person who was talking about cocktails earlier from the brewery, but this is your cocktail napkin drawing. That every single person, Lisa, should be able to recite, on a cocktail napkin or on a beer napkin. My digital vision is collaborative, it's associate-centric, it's connected, it's flexible, and it's future-focused. That's my vision. And guess what? Everything I do is going to be tied to that. And what are my measures of success going to be? Notice at the bottom, those are my measures of success. It doesn't say go live. It doesn't say save $3. Of course, value is part of it, and return is part of it. But having a digital engagement map that has your vision combined with your principles and your outcomes is required in where we're at today, which means you go through the process of saying, what do you want to be great at versus what is it okay at? You have to simplify in order to become unique. Does that make sense what I just said? You have to simplify in order to be unique. What that means is that in the things that don't matter as much, you have to simplify so that you can be a snowflake in those things that do. But if you say we've got customizations of every process, of everything we do, for every single person in the company where it's not going to matter at the end of the day, you're never going to be able to do what you want to be great at. You're always going to be backlogged. So you have to look at what do we have versus what do we need. We have to make sure we're transitioning not just our technology, but transforming the way that we work. And we have to shift our language from an HR tech speak to a work and people tech speak. HR tech is technology for HR. HR tech is technology for HR, and that's important. But if I put in technology for HR, my people that benefit from it are going to almost guaranteed be HR. If I put in tools for my people, guess what? They're going to benefit from it, but I'm going to benefit from it. They're going to benefit from it because I'm giving them direct access to the tools that they need to do their job. I'm going to benefit from it in HR because I'm going to have data. If you still call something self-service, stop. Self-service is a transaction. It's not an experience. No one's ever going to be engaged. No one's ever going to say, oh, I loved it, and it made me feel good. Giving people direct access to an experience that allows them to get something done and makes them feel good at the same time as giving you data, not only does it sound better than self-service, it's truly what you're doing. You're giving them access to the tools they need to be a better person. I can't state that enough. Direct access versus self-service. Stop calling things modules. Think in journeys. Stop calling things transactions. Think about journeys. That's how we all work outside of work. In today's world, we look at things like Teams and Slack and Zoom and AirMeet and Uber and blah, 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 blah. Like, we look at all of this stuff. And what's so important for each of those things to understand is what matters about them. So let me just play a quick game with you. Put in the chat, what's your favorite app? If you can, if you're open to sharing, what's your favorite app? Slack, even on your device. Instagram, Hewler, Google Keep, Amazon, Notion, Spotify, Twitter, Scrabble, Teams, LinkedIn, Amazon, Peloton, Duolingo, Drive, LinkedIn. Okay, Diana. Diana said Duolingo. Could you imagine if the first time that Diana downloaded Duolingo, she got to it and said, wow, this is stupid. I don't even know what to do. How long do you think it's going to be before Diana deletes Duolingo? It'll probably be about 10 to 15 seconds or 30 seconds, Jen. And how long until Diana goes back to see if it gets better? Never. Now, Pretend you're rolling out some new tools. And guess what? You roll out this new tool and you say, hey, guess what, Bakari? It's a minimum viable product. But guess what? It's going to get better someday. Dude, that doesn't work. You all just said never. That doesn't work. We have to get out of the habit of rolling out minimum viable products to our people and getting in the habit of rolling out minimal lovable products. What's going to make that product lovable so that you can continue to treat it like a pet, not like a rock, and make it better over time? Okay? So just in closing, if you guys want a copy of the slides, scan that QR code, connect with me on LinkedIn, you'll get it. Okay? What's really, really important that I just want to close with is that nothing will change. Nothing will change in HR work if you don't change. The number one skill that you can take away from this presentation is adaptation. Adaptation equals unlearning. Adaptation equals unlearning. And that's where we have to start. We have to start with unlearning a lot of the way we're doing things today and starting to create that now of work. That now of work, that's your now of work right now. So I will go back to that QR code since someone just asked it. I really, really appreciate the time. I hope that 45 minutes was helpful to you. And now we have some time for Q&A, and I will turn it back over to Bakari.
Jason, if I may, I'd like to start off the Q&A with a question of my own.
Sure.
So over the past few months, I've been fortunate enough to be a fellow at the Carter Center. And I've been tasked with basically a focus on mental health journalism. In the States, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, looking at employment engagement in the now of work. And also, you mentioned engagement surveys once a year. B to me, what is going to be the onus of HR professionals and companies as employees begin to transition back to an in-person environment? Because what I have seen is that big or small, the effects of COVID-19, the isolation, the changes, they have had an impact on the mental health of a large number of people. And it's going to have to be looked at.
Yeah, Bakari, we have all been touched. We have all been touched in the last 15 months by what's happened to us. And like I said, multiple pandemics. Okay? What's really important to understand is that HR needs to provide a 30,000-foot air cover and tools that help managers and leaders have discussions with their people. We have to create a 30,000-foot view that allows safe space for people to have conversations about these types of things. And we have to provide resources for people to go to, for managers and leaders and employees to go to get that assistance. But what really has to happen at the 1,000-foot level, or the foot level right now, Bakari, is that I, as a manager and leader, have to act as a human to my people. And I need to be, I hate to say this because it drives me crazy, but I have to be told and reminded by leadership to do that. Okay, but it can't be HR doing that. HR needs to provide the tools, the framework. HR needs to shepherd it. But for HR to say, hey, don't worry, managers and leaders, we got this mental health thing by the blah, blah, blah. And guess what? Yeah, just go on. That will never work. The trust is with the manager and leader. with the employee. The trust is with the organization. HR needs to get out of that big head of thinking it's going to change everything and get into the mode of saying, we're going to provide you the tools. Eric, I love what you said. It's everyone's responsibility. Completely agree. HR play your role and provide the tools, provide the resources, but realize you can't have every conversation. Most people, as I've struggled with mental health my whole life, shouldn't even go into that, but I have. The last person I'm going to go to is my HR department to tell that story. It's just not going to happen. Okay, provide the tools, provide the shell, provide the umbrella, and then let's make sure that over time we build our HR functions where we can be a function that people will desire to talk to us instead of we're deflecting them away from us, which is what's happening in a lot of cases right now.
How realistic is that, Jason?
Mega realistic, Bakari, if we let our managers be human. Because guess what? They show up human. I hate to say this. They're human. I mean, I don't hate to say it. I love to say it. They're human. But oftentimes the framework of work puts them in an uncomfortable situation where they can't do that.
Popping in the Q&A, we have a question from Courtney. Meeting once a year for performance is definitely not enough, but is there too much as well? Some workplaces meet once a week with their manager to talk performance and progress. Is this redundant?
Bakari, are you married? Do you have a partner?
Yeah, I actually got married during the pandemic a few months ago, and we are expecting our first kid in a few months. We just found out we're having a boy.
Congratulations. Love you.
Thank you.
Now, think about that for a second. When your spouse or partner says to you, they have feedback for you, what do you think? Like, hey, guess what, Bakari? Come here. I got to talk to you. I've got some feedback for you.
You know,
how's that
I
make you
think
feel?
that we have a relationship where we've talked to each other enough to know when and how we have to have conversations and share information with each other. So for me, that it's not ominous.
Yeah, dude, you just said it. You just said exactly the opposite of what I said. I said feedback, you said conversation. I said feedback, you said conversation. Are conversations redundant? Having conversations with people, is it redundant? No, it's not redundant. Now, if you're going to do a process and say, oh, feedback time. Oh, feedback time. Guess what? It's Friday feedback time. That's going to get redundant. But sorry, I hate to be so weird, but having conversations with people, that's not redundant. Mm-hmm. If we in HR put such strict boxes around things like you have to talk to Bakari once every Thursday, no matter what.
And Christine just pointed out the point is intention.
Yeah. Yep. And the point is, dude, I'm not going to remember if I asked you if you're green, yellow, or red. Right? But I hope it made you feel something.
Yeah.
I hope it made you feel like I care or intent to care. I hope that some of you that were yellow got a little bit more green during the session. I actually care about that a lot. That's intent.
Looked like someone had a.
Got me sweating. You got me sweating here.
That went away. What happens when there are times where intent misses the mark?
Yeah, it's fake.
That happens.
You know what happens. It's fake. It comes across as fake. Hey, we're rolling out a new conversation tool out of HR. Here's the email. Click on the URL.
Mm-hmm.
What? No, that's not that. It comes across as fake. It comes across as forced. Okay, it needs to be positioned as the value to you, Bakari, of doing this is X. The value to you of doing this is Y. So HR sucks at change management. Excuse my language. We're really bad at it. We're really bad at talking about the value to the employee versus the value to us. So how does it come across? It comes across as fake. And one of the things the work that we do with organizations is, and I say this probably 5 times a day, that so many people try to force adoption of tools and force adoption of processes. And they just struggle. And if adoption doesn't happen, you know what they do? They say, oh, must have to have another tool. Must have another process. One of the key things to remember is an organization has to adapt before people ever adopt. An org has to adapt before people ever adopt. So if people say, hey, I told you I was green, yellow, or red, but what did you do with the data? Nothing. Guess what's going to happen next time? No one's going to fill out the thing. We have this thing in HR called talent profiles. We're like, put in your talent profile. We know you've already done it on LinkedIn, but put it in over here. And then guess what? We put in our talent profile as an employee, but what's the first thing the company does when a job opens up? Opens a rec to the outside. Am I going to have any desire to continue to put in my talent data? No. So we have to change if we really want people to adopt these capabilities.
Jason, we have about 3 minutes left. Let's get to a question from Eric Hutchinson. If you move away from formal performance review and feedback structures, how do you justify compensation bonus, pay increase decisions?
Eric, it's hard. That's the adaptation and that's the unlearning. Okay? If you go back and study, which I don't want you to do, but I'll just try to do it really, really quickly, why performance appraisals were ever developed, it was to give compensation increases based on unions. And I had to have a legal way of justifying an increase. Over time, we've just kept that. Okay? Eric, my response to your question in a short answer is going to be based on how you think behaviors are incented in your organization is the way that you should think about leveraging comp, bonus, pay decisions. Okay, but I'm going to tell you something really quickly. Eric, and Bakari, if you rated me on time management and you gave me a 4 because I finished 2 minutes over what I was supposed to speak on a few minutes ago. You gave me a 4, not a 5, but you gave me a 4. I guarantee you, Eric, you're going to say 2 minutes, no big deal. You're going to give me a 5. I can tell you, Bakari, who cares about time management more than anything, is going to give me a 2 because I was 2 minutes over. And you're actually going to justify my pay based on your own individual views of time management? 66% of performance ratings are a reflection of you and what you know versus a reflection of how someone actually does. Okay? It's called the idiosyncratic rater effect. I don't want to get too deep into it, but it's more of a reflection of you. Like Bakari, let's say you suck at time management and you're doing a performance review and you're like, hey, I'm going to rate Jason on time management. That's what we do today, you guys, and we have to get rid of that. It's an old school model that really doesn't work. So, Eric, I don't have a specific answer to your question, not knowing what your company does, but I'm happy to have more conversations based on how organizations are moving away and thinking about this.
Well, Jason, with that, I thank you for your time. 10 years, was it worth it?
Come on, dude.
Did it feel good?
Guys, LinkedIn, anytime. It's not 10 years. It's not. I don't know where you. That's bad data, dude. That's bad data.
So I really hope that the words that I said in my intro about your impact on Jess's 3 daughters. Were you aware of that?
Bakari, I just try to be a good person. And if I impact people, that's awesome.
Well, keep doing what you do based on love, energy, and audacity. Jason, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. It was a pleasure to get to know you and have you share some insight with us.
And most important, out of anything that we've done, congratulations.
Thank you.
Bringing a human into the world, 1 in 8 billion chance. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So right now, everyone, we will have a 5-minute intermission, and then we're going to come back with an interactive activity. Stick around, guys.